Hi everyone, it's Reece Arcon here, and today I'm shooting a video about the 7 most important advisors that you're going to need if you want to run a successful business. Now, advisors to me are people that have already walked the path that you want to walk. They're people that have been there, done that, and they're now able to advise you, probably having made some mistakes themselves, and then obviously having learned from them. Now, the number 1 most important advisor in your business is probably going to be your accountant or tax advisor. Why? Well, because if you're running a business properly and you're making a lot of money and you live in Australia or America or another Western country, you're going to be paying a lot of tax. Tax in Australia and Western countries is the highest in the world, and so having a really good structure and system of legally minimizing your tax is going to pay incredible dividends long term. Look around for someone who is consistently increasing their knowledge, someone that's staying relevant to all the new financial updates in the world, and they're able to give you practical yearly advice that's going to save you money in the long term. The second one is marketing. Now, marketing can quite often make or break a business. Why? Because it's that bang for buck on your marketing return that's going to get you leads that are going to lead to sales within your organization. And as I've always said, nothing happens in business until a sale is made. Marketing's always changing. So something that used to work 5 years ago necessarily is not going to give you the best return on investment today. A website that I advertised a lot on in 2016 that got me an incredible return on investment now returns about 10% of what I used to get. In terms of marketing, the best advice that I've heard a marketer give is to focus 80% of your spend on what's returning you the greatest value and spend your other 20% of your marketing budget on trialing new things. So 80% is going into, this is exactly what's working, this is what's giving us an ROI, and 20% snacking and trialing other little things out there until potentially one of those 20% starts giving you a greater return on investment than the 80%. The third one is your IT advisor. Now, a lot of people confuse IT with marketing because a lot of marketing is obviously done online. But what I mean by IT is somebody that can consistently upgrade and change the way your business is presenting. So you've obviously got a website. If you don't, you should probably get one. Or secondarily, you might have a social media page. That needs to be presenting incredibly well on a smartphone. If you look at the figures over the last decade of where people's attention is going, it's moving away from a desktop computer and into their hand. So make sure that if you're advertising and you're presenting to a client, that it looks the way you want it to on a mobile device. The fourth one is finance. So not to be confused with your tax advisor or your accountant, I'm talking about an advisor that can give you practical advice on how to run a business. Someone who maybe has a CFO background. You see, most employed accountants have never actually run their own business themselves. So while they're good at advising you on inputting data, etc., they're probably not up to date on how to reduce the expenses in your business or how to get a better return from the financial services that you're using. Now, the fifth one is a really high-end legal advisor. Now, there's 2 main reasons that you would need to get someone legally involved in your business to give you advice. The first one is setting up your company. So how should your business be presenting? Have you got the right structure and the right protections in forms of the contracts that you're sending out and dealing with your clients on a day-to-day basis? And the second one is when you have a low in a business. It's when you need to obviously get some legal advice on an argument that you're having with either a client or a supplier. Now, my 4 pet peeves from a lawyer are: number 1, if they don't specialize. I see too many legal advisors who are out there offering advice as a generalist, sort of like a GP, rather than a surgeon of the medical industry, for instance. You want someone that understands your industry and has practical advice and experience dealing within your industry. The second one is when they use templates. So if they're using a template they've used for another client and charging you high dollars for it, I would stay right away from that legal advisor. The third one is when a lawyer is advertising consistently and they're then adding more and more clients to their business and they're passing off your work to their paralegal and charging you an arm and a leg for it. And the fourth one is when they tell you that there's a good chance of winning your case. If you have a look at the statistics, it's about 1 in 15 cases actually end up at a trial in a courtroom, which means most of the time you're trying to settle a case outside of it. And in my personal experience, most of the time it's not worth your energy which is going to be a negative energy if it's a legal case, your time, which takes forever, trust me, and the money that you're going to waste on your legal advice to try and get through something. In business, for me, it's much better just to simply move on, create new opportunities, create new clients, rather than dealing with old ones that are just going to bring negativity into your life. Now, if you do end up in a situation where you do have a court case, I would more than urge you to try and solve it through mediation or offers. If you can get the two parties sitting at a table and you can be realistic in trying to solve your differences, that's going to save you time and money in the long term. The last thing I advise you with legal advice as well is to look for someone who's practical in achieving that settlement. Someone that's saying, oh yeah, we'll get this to trial, is probably going to end up costing you a lot more money than it's worth, and obviously put a lot more money back into their pockets rather than yours. At the end of the day in business, sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. But if you're trying to move on, I would focus on the positives rather than the negatives. But if you do end up in an argument, I would use affordable legal services that focus on the mediation process rather than trying to continue down a courtroom style solution. And the last one is talent. Because in business, I believe you're only as good as the people within your organization. Now, depending on what industry you're in, you're either going to be getting or finding your people through either a recruiter or a sales or HR department. And you want to be finding people that are adding to the positive culture of your business or even improving it. Take the time to stop and evaluate what it is your company stands for and make sure that you've got people that align with your vision and what your idea of success is.